Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for joining us through YouTube live stream. My name is Febria. I'm the Curriculum Managers and Infrastructure Manager for Bangkit 2021. Thank you so much for joining us for today's talk. I think this is our the fifth time we are doing the IWD sessions. Uh, that will be led by the inspiring woman in tech industry. So for today's sessions, we will have a casual chat, a fireside chat with Nikki Lee or Nicole Lee. She is a head of machine learning and responsible engineering educations, as well as the evaluations and assessment and research at Google. Hi, Nikki. How are you?
I'm doing well, Febria. How is everybody doing today?
I think it's sunny today. It's not rainy. Usually we have like a rainy days, but I think today it's sunny because I think because we have you today. It's because sunny.
It's literally I'm on the other side of the planet. I'm in Seattle, Washington right now, and it was gray and cloudy and raining, and it's 8 p.m. in the evening here, so it's very different.
Oh, I see. Because in Jakarta or especially in Indonesia, we still morning time. It's around 10 a.m. here.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to have you, Nikki. Thank you for spending your night with us.
Oh, no problem. I had to run down and hide in the basement because my husband's upstairs running around with the dog, and I had to hide in the basement where we have our bikes and things like that. So I appreciate you all putting up with my mess.
No problem. We are happy to have you. Okay, Nikki. Maybe before we start, because I think our viewers just know about you. Can you share a bit about yourself, like your career journey, like what make you decide like to pursue career in tech?
I had a very interesting path to tech. I didn't start out in tech. In high school, I went to a STEM high school, so science, technology, engineering, and math high school, which was very interesting. I had to learn a little bit of coding to graduate and doing all of that. But once I got into university, that's not what I was doing. I tried a lot of different majors out. I swapped my major. I was really struggling to find my identity, where I fit in. And at one point, I even dropped out of college because I was dating a boy who was going to medical school. And he said, Nikki, we were having, struggling to make ends meet. I was teaching at the time. So I was going to college and teaching at the time. And I loved teaching. I love education. I love, inspiring minds and seeing that light bulb go off in brains. And he said, Nikki, why don't, we're having trouble making ends meet. Why don't you get a higher paying job? And when I graduate from medical school, I can pay for you to go, you pay for me to go to medical school and I can pay for you to go back to college. And I was like, sure, perfect. Sounds like a great plan. And then he never did that. And I found out cheating on me, and it was this whole mess. And I would tell you, don't drop out of college for boys. It's never a good plan.
Yeah, remember that, our viewers.
Yes, but what happened was I quit my job. I dropped out of school. I quit my job teaching, and I got a full-time job answering the phone. Customer service. Thank you for calling. This is Nikki. How may I help you today? And I was selling insurance on the phone, and I hated that job. So I went into marketing. I was just a marketing assistant, and I was doing that. But because I knew a little bit, just a little bit, I knew some HTML, I knew some CSS, I knew a little bit of JavaScript. They put me in charge of their website and their email marketing and buying their ads. And I knew about data. I knew just a little bit, but I knew about data. And I go, well, if you're going to put me in charge of this, I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try and figure out how to make more money. If I buy this ad and I change it, how can I improve it and how can I make it better? And that's what started me on this path of learning how does data work and how can I use technology to improve my ads. or how can I use technology to improve the website a little bit or the emails. And so I started down that path a little bit, and I started pulling that thread. And eventually I left that job to run, social media and ads buying for another company. And I left that job to run mobile development for an ads agency and, develop mobile ads. And I left that job to become the vice president of mobile mobile apps for Union Bank of California. And then I left that job to come to Google. So it's, it started off very small, just a little bit of curiosity, like, I wonder how this works. And I learned on the job, and I continue to grow my skills in alternate means and methods. I didn't go to university for it. I eventually went back to school a little bit. I got my degree in communications. I don't have a degree in computer science. I don't have a degree in, informatics, but I learned that data and information and systems, how they work together, can really be used to inform your business strategy or to answer questions. And it's a tool. So I learned how to do that and how to put those things together. And that's what really started me on my career journey into the tech industry.
Oh, wow. It's really a long journey. I think from starting from teaching, then doing digital marketing, and then you also developing a mobile applications. And at the end, you are now become a head of machine learning and responsible engineering for Google. Wow, wow, wow. It's really a long journey.
Yeah, and it's one I'm not ashamed of. It's one I'm very proud of, because I think it actually makes me better at my job. It's one that allows me to have a different perspective. It's one that lets me solve problems differently. And it's one that, because I'm the head of, machine learning and responsible engineering education, lets me think about all the different ways someone might need to learn this information, all the different ways that might approach it, not just, oh, I have a computer science degree. Teach me the exact way. I know all this information, this one path, all the different paths that someone might arrive at the same education. My husband is a software engineer at Google. We met before Google, but he's a software engineer at Google. But his degree's in photography. We have people. Maggie Johnson, our VP of my department, has her degree in music. And so all these different experiences allow people to look at the same problem and arrive at it and solve it in a different way. And that's an asset, in my opinion. Right. And it allows us as educators to understand all the different ways that people might solve a different problem and make sure that people are supported in learning that.
Yeah, I'm agree with that. That's a really great asset. Actually, Nikki, I'm curious, like, what is your dream since you are little? Is it, what are you doing now is aligned with your dream?
When I was a little kid?
Yeah, when you are a little kid, yeah.
I mean, when I was a little kid, I was, I grew up in a Vietnamese family. When I was a little kid, I was told I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot of Asian kids growing up, you want to grow up to be a doctor. And, I think I changed my major. Like I said, when I went to college, I changed my major so many times. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. And I just found that it wasn't for me. It wasn't what I wanted to do. There are only certain approved careers according to my parents and my grandmother. But at the end of the day, when I asked myself, what is really important to me, what I want to do is I want to help people, and I want to help people grow, and I want to help people. Now, I may not be doing it in the doctor sense, but I am doing it in my career now. I'm a manager of a team, and I get to help people learn new things, and I get to help people in their careers and like change careers or switch careers potentially. So I'm still helping people, and I'm just doing it in a slightly different way. And so, in one sense, I am doing what I did want to do. I'm just using it in a slightly different sense and different skills to do that.
So my other questions, my follow-up question about that is, when is this is not the right path for me, when you are doing changing college subject and stuff like that, like when when this is the point, oh, okay, I don't think that this is for me. Like, what
Yeah.
is the there?
That's a really hard question to answer because there's a lot of different signals, and your brain is really good at processing information that you don't even recognize. You could be sitting in a class and you could be hating it, and you don't know what data your brain is processing. You're It's that there's a pit in your stomach, and you're not successful, or etc., and your brain is sending you signals that this isn't the right career for you, or this isn't the right path for you, and you're really good at ignoring that, and you're like, no, 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 I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep doing it. But your brain is processing a lot of information that you're not even conscious of. So I think some of the things that I was conscious of was the fact that I was unhappy. i
Mm.
I struggled really hard. No matter how hard I applied myself, I, even if I was successful, there are classes I was really good at. I was really, really, really great at organic chemistry. That class I didn't struggle in, but I didn't enjoy it. And when I projected out to my long-term career, I remember this is a very clear moment for me. I remember being in a lab and I was pipetting a fluid from one set of vials to another. I was pipetting. It's like, if I have to do this for the rest of my life, do this over and over, I'm going to scream. I hate this so much. And you just think about, like,
Oh.
what am I going to, what do I want to be investing my time in? What brings me joy? What makes me smile, and what doesn't make me smile? And so, like, when I think about, like, oh, teaching, I think about that light bulb moment for it's not me, it's not when I'm learning, but when I get to teach someone else and I see that light bulb moment go off in their eyes, like, that makes me smile. I want more of that, and that's where I'm going to invest my time, and that's where I'm going to put more time in. And then how do I make that financially viable? Because that is really
Mm.
important. Finding the
Yeah.
right balance in all of that.
Okay, I want to summarize the point that you just talked. So find something that can make you smile, that brings you joy and spark in your life, and then find the balance. So you need to find the balance between something that you like as well as the other aspect of your life that needs to keep going, right? Make the
Yeah.
life keep going.
I mean, we have
And
to be real. We have to be honest, and, like, we have to be realistic.
right,
I love eating ice cream. I love that, but no one's paying me. No one's paying me money to eat
right,
ice cream all day. So, you have to also be real and, like, balance,
realistic. Yeah.
think about all the different things, lots of things bring me joy. What is the intersection of all the things that bring me joy? What are the things that can also be sustainable, to also, be reasonable to put food on my table at the end of the day, and pay my bills, as also, potentially have a positive impact on the world. Me eating ice cream all day doesn't have a positive impact on anybody besides me. So, like,
Yes.
you have to factor in a few different things, and consider all the potential options.
Berarti another tips from Nikki is find something that can help you and make you happy. Okay. Next question, Nikki. I, I, as you mentioned, you moved like several times before Google. What make you decide like to do to move to Google actually?
So, I was living in San Diego near my family and doing all of that. And I decided to move to the Bay Area for an opportunity with Macy's.com. And
Mm-hmm.
doing that. And I was working at Macy's.com for 1 month,
1 month.
before I quit, because I got the phone call from Google. And
Oh,
in that, like, you're like, ooh, like, you really quit a job after 1 month, but it's Google, even the people at Macy's.com weren't upset. They're like, we get it. Like, you get a call from Google. And, it was an opportunity to really take my career to the next level, because Google is a company that has so many options. Google's in many, many fields. Google operates in health, and in search and in advertising and in education. Google touches so many things that it opens up so many doors and so many opportunities. Macy's was such a wonderful company to work for. They were so kind and flexible, and they were really like, I really enjoyed my time at Macy's, but it's an e-commerce company. It does one thing. And moving to Google, I can work in education, but when I decide that I'm ready for my next opportunity, I don't have to leave Google. I can just move to another team within Google. And just because of the size and scale of Google, it really affords you a lot of latitude and opportunity, which is really nice. And there's so much knowledge at Google that if I ever have a question, I know that someone at Google is going to know the answer. And one really wonderful thing is I'm never, ever the smartest person in the room at Google. There's always someone smarter. So there's always more learning to do, and there's always more growth to do. But by all the people around you, you're surrounded by really wonderful people at Google.
So when you start Google, like what role you are transitioning from Macy's to Google? What first role at Google?
So at Macy's, I was a I was an agile coach. I was an agile coach project manager. Yeah, at Macy's. And then I came into Google. So I was a vendor at Google, and I was a project manager doing special projects at Google. So I did things like google.com/Star Wars, which was a big event for Google. And I did that for a few years before I joined the education team.
So from so many teams that you've been with Google, which team are the most comfortable working with? Because I think,
it's the education team. I made a big choice. I made a big leap to leave this product management role to become a program manager and move to this education team specifically because it was able to merge, my data and business intelligence background that I had been developing for a few years back to my heart and my love of education. I was able to put those two things into one job and really like merge that two together. And so it was a bit of a leap for me, but it was really important to do and a really wonderful opportunity.
Okay. So you mentioned that you are not coming from tech background, right, Nikki?
No.
Do you have any tips and tricks that you can share? Because I think some of our Bangkit students also are not coming from tech background. So can you share any tips like when you are juggling between the digital marketing and then you switch to data, and any tips like how you do it? Like because I think it's quite hard at first, right?
Yes, it is hard. So on the like more strategic side, there's always like trying to understand like having a growth mindset. So they say around the 4th grade is when girls say, oh, I'm not a math person. I'm not good at math. I'm not a math person. And there's a difference in that, and it's part of how we've been socialized and etc. But it's not, math isn't part of your character. It's not part of your identity. It's a skill that you can develop. So instead of saying, I'm not a math person, it's, I'm not good at math yet. And how can I get better at it? So when we change our mindset around that, and really like, I had to do that to myself. Like I used to say like, I'm terrible at math. I suck at math. How can I work in data? I'm horrible at math. And realizing I don't have to be horrible at math forever. That's not part of who I am. It's not, it's not my hair color. It's not my eye color. It's a skill. So how can I change my mindset around that? So that's on the more like strategic and interpersonal. And then on the tactical side, read everything. Read articles, read the news, read Reddit, read Hacker News, and then read. So of course, take classes, take things, but read as well. And then you can start to see, how does data impact our lives? How does information, where does technology appear? And start to ask some questions, because then you're going to start to see how do these things connect to one another? And that's where you're going to be able to go, oh, this is where I am, and that's where I want to get to. How can I start to draw that path together? And so by reading those articles and reading about those things, you can start to build your awareness. And so it was because I was reading that I was able to connect my digital marketing, or sorry, I wasn't even a digital marketer. I was just a regular marketer. Hey, Nikki, can you, send out the emails? But it was because I was reading. I go, oh, well, I just learned that I'm capable of doing A/B tests, or I'm capable of this, and reading, and like, okay, my curiosity is interested. And so I just happened to read an article. So read industry news, read more, and read lots of things. And oh no, tech issues. So read article, and so it was able to connect me and build a path from here to the next lily pad, to the next lily pad, to the next lily pad, till I landed like a little frog. You jump from lily pad to lily pad, till I landed where I wanted to get. And so I just think you should read everything you can get your hands on.
Speaking of reading, what is your most favorite books?
My most favorite books? Books, I only read fiction books. I don't like to read nonfiction books, because books for me are an escapist method. Like when I get home and like when I want to go to sleep, I read a book. So there's like the classic like Franny and Zooey, or Zoe, Franny and Zoe, from Salinger, from like when I was a kid, or the Phantom Toll Booth. And then there's like recently, I don't know, I read a lot of books, and like I think I have one bookmarked, but that's a hard question.
Because you read so many books, right?
Yeah, well, it's not just books. I read articles. So I read articles, I read magazines, I read, like I'm, my husband looks at me, he's like, what are you doing? Like on your phone? I'm like, I'm reading. I'm reading on my phone. I'm reading another article. I read an article about how, statistics is being used in this other field to make decisions about this thing. Has nothing to do with what I'm doing, but maybe one day I might use that bit of information as a fun fact in something, and I might be able to connect it to my field. I don't know, but I think it's fascinating. So yeah, books are like escapist fiction. Oh yeah, like I just finished reading A Discovery of Witches, which is just like a silly. It's like terrible, Harry Potter. Like I read things like that for fun, but like for work, I read lots of like Harvard Business Review, and things like that. So who knows?
Yeah. So to summarize, Nikki's tip is to read more books and read articles that can help you to build your awareness. And then try to change your mindset, shifting your mindset, so you can start see things differently and start questioning after that, so you can connect the dots.
I feel like I'm giving you terrible advice. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm still learning. I'm learning alongside. I'm still learning, and I'm still growing myself.
We are all self-learning, right? I think that's totally fine.
Anyone who says that they figured it out or they have the answers is lying to you.
Okay, Nikki, next questions. Could you share like what is the day-to-day of the head of machine learning and responsible engineering education looks like? So the students have any ideas like how it's what is your day-to-day actually?
My day-to-day is meetings and emails. I mean, literally, I wake up and I have meetings from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day. And I'm in meetings back to back to back. And that's because I've moved into a management position. And, I have the benefit of having a really wonderful team. My job as a manager is to make sure that my team is successful. And so my job is to get out of their way, to make sure that they have the time, the resources, the information, the knowledge, and the context to be successful and to do the job. So the number one thing I say as a manager is, I don't know. You tell me, because they are the domain experts. They're the ones who are doing the work in the projects, in the applications, and doing that. So I am there to set a vision, to say, like, these are our goals. This is what we want to accomplish, and do that, and then support them in accomplishing that. So, I joke that I am the fairy godmother. Whatever they need, I'm there to remove roadblocks, or if there's speed bumps slowing them down, I'm there to make their lives easier. I don't do anything. I'm just there to help them and support them and do that. So I'm in meetings to listen to, okay, this piece of information is interesting, and this piece of information is interesting. Connect those two things together. So, I'm in meetings to listen to those things and go, oh, here's an opportunity for us to contribute. And here's an opportunity for my team. Like, they're talking about the newest kinds of machine learning models that are about to hit the industry. But before anyone can do that, we need to educate people and teach people how to build those models, or how to use those models. Like, okay, here's an opportunity for my team. So I need to listen. A lot of my time is listening and analyzing, going, here's an opportunity I heard from this other meeting that I was in. I turn around and I bring that to my team and go, what do you all think? Do you think we can do something about this? Now you all decide what's the best course of action. Do we need to do an in-person course? Do we need to do a puzzle hunt? Do we need to do a virtual summit? What's the best way to help us accomplish this business objective? And they all do it. I don't write the courses anymore. I don't do all that, because I'm not the best position. I'm not the best person suited. They are all the experts. They are the domain experts. They are they are the people who are most qualified to do that. And so my job is just to get out of their way, because they're the pros.
I think you love connecting the dots, right? Before you also mentioned that you need to connect your readings and the things that you can do actually.
Yeah, a big part of my job is analysis. And I think people don't talk about that, when they talk about transitioning into, and the skills you need to build when transitioning into the tech industry. They talk about learn how to code, learn how to write SQL, learn how to, write Python, learn how to do these things. Those are all great. But what are the other skills that you need? Is you need to be able to analyze the data. You need to synthesize this information. You need to be able to report it out and communicate it back. And those are the things that I spent my time doing. I don't write as much SQL as I used to. I would say maybe 3 years ago, I was writing, if you ask me that question, I was spending 4 hours a day writing SQL and, spitting those reports out and giving that data and analysis back to other people. Now I don't write any SQL. I don't have time to do that. Someone else does that. But I'm still doing that analysis and that synthesis and that communication and that interpretation back to other people. It's just in a different format.
Yes. You mentioned that you also juggling like multiple meetings in one day, right? How to keep your focus still on when you have like a back-to-back meetings?
It's hard. It's really hard, especially in a pandemic when I haven't left my house in a year. I think it is. It's about a lot of context switching. So I'm incredibly organized with the way I take notes. It is, everything is color coded. I try to keep as much information labeled in my inbox as much as possible. And the really great thing is, like with Google Docs, I can comment people in. So I have one doc that I take my notes in, and in this doc, I can, as I take that note, I can go, oh, this is really important to this person. I can reference them in it and I can link it to them and do that. So I really try to keep organized in that and keep it centralized as much as possible, because otherwise I just couldn't keep up. So that's how I try to keep my information, keep my information straight and keep my data, try not to get confused. I think as for my stamina, how do I pay attention and how do I, not fall asleep in front of the camera? It's a lot of tea and being late to meetings. Like, sorry, I'm 3 minutes late because I need to, just take a quick break, and like I like do a lot of stretching.
Yeah.
Doing that. So that's how I just maintain my stamina between meetings, because I don't have time for lunch. I apologize to February. Like I brought my dinner. I was eating right before this talk because I'm just trying to keep up with everything I'm doing.
Oh, it's really awesome. Like I'm so amazed. Like people in Google tends to have like really there's so many back-to-back meetings, and I was wondering like how they can keep up with all those meetings and keep focused.
I eat during my meetings. I eat while I'm talking to people sometimes. And thankfully, everyone is so kind and charitable and understanding. And they're like, I get it. I get that you're busy. So, yeah, eat during your meeting. If the doorbell rings, like, I'll give you a sec to go answer the doorbell. And everyone is very understanding about just, that we're all humans. We are not worker bees. We're all humans who are trying to get through the day.
Right, agree. And you mentioned that your team also building courses. Can you share a bit what type of programs or what types of responsible engineering education is look like to the students? Like because I think the students doesn't have any ideas like, oh, we know that responsible engineering education is what, but actually what is it for? So maybe you can explain to us a bit.
So responsible engineering isn't just about fairness and ethics. That's a very big component, but it's really about what does it mean back to our users, and how do we make sure that it's, we're taking into account what impact we have back on our users and what responsibility we have back to our users. So that takes into account, the fairness and the ethics, but also the accessibility and the internationalization and the localization of it all, as well as, a great responsible engineer is using their judgment to make sure that the code they write is readable and maintainable and testable, and performant and efficient, because ultimately that code gets run on a server that uses electricity. So what are all the things that a really great responsible engineer takes into account and uses their best judgment on? And so what are those, skills that a responsible engineer has, and how do we build them into as many engineers as possible? And what is the education we do? Because we don't want to just build, developers and software engineers who just throw their code out there and hope for the best. Without thinking, but on the other end of that is a human using that code, and how does it affect them? Because we do live in a very interconnected world and society.
Yeah. Oh, I just know that. Okay, thanks for sharing, Nikki.
Yeah.
Maybe we can start to answering question from Slido. Hmm. Okay, here is, oh, it's gone. Okay, wait, let me bring the Slido up. Oh, okay. Okay, the first question and the most voted questions. When we are in the positions feeling like figuring out what's our identity, what's our goals, and what we want to become, what should we do? Do you have any suggestions, like for the people who still figuring out like what they want to do in life?
That's a hard and big question. And honestly, I think it starts with asking yourself, what are your values? What's important to you? I stop and ask myself, like, what are my values? And like, my values are lifting other boats. So when I say lifting other boats, it's making sure that the people around me are better for my presence and more helpful. Like, okay, well, what are the ways that I could do that? But what else is that? It's that I really like, using technology. What are the, so just thinking about, when you were a kid, what did you really like to do? My partner, he loved um, taking things apart and putting back together. Now, is
Oh.
he a mechanical engineer? No, but what it was he was curious, and he liked to see how things worked. And so, is there a way to carry that same spirit and that same curiosity into his career now? For me, I really wanted to, I took care of my sisters, and so I really want to care for people, and I really liked teaching them how to tie their shoes and how to do things. And like, is there a way for me to do that? So thinking about like, what did you really enjoy doing as a kid? And is there a way to do that same spirit now? Not exactly like I said I want to be a doctor, and you don't have to do it that way, but like, what was the aspect of it that you valued? So like, think about what are your values and start
Mm-hmm.
there, and then start experimenting, like, think about, trying it a little bit. If you're interested in data science, take a little bit of a data science class, see if you like it. If you're interested in front end engineering, take a little bit, build a little bit of a front end engineering app, see how it feels. Don't see whether or not you're good at it, but see how you feel while you do it. And so like, start experimenting and give yourself permission to fail, give yourself permission to not do well, because even bad outcomes are good data. Bad
Mm.
outcomes is still good data because it's good information, because knowing what doesn't work for you is still really important, as you try to find what does work for you.
Noted, noted. Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah.
And I think the next questions. What do you do in your spare time? And what is your motivations at times? I think how you handle the stress, actually, basically the questions like what is your hobby and how you handle stress from working? Your hobbies?
One one
Biking.
bicycle, two bicycles. I think there's only two people in this house, and we have 7 bicycles.
Seven? You have 7 bicycles?
We have 7 bicycles in this house for 2 people.
Oh,
So
wow. You are collecting bicycles.
we are big cyclists in this house. It's mostly my partner. I only have 2 bicycles. He has the other 5. But again, there's only one. I only have 2 legs. Yeah, I have 2 bicycles. But aside from that, I cook and I bake and I play video games, and that's what I do in my spare time. And then when I experience stress, I do experience a lot of stress, but it's about managing that stress um, and setting firm boundaries with that stress, knowing what is within my control and what's not within my control. So someone once told me anxiety is uncertainty plus our inability to cope, or uncertainty plus our underestimation of our ability to cope. So there's always going to be uncertainty in the world, and we cannot control that uncertainty. But what we can do is work on our resilience. We can work on understanding that we are more resilient and than we think we are. So we can think about like, well, in this uncertain time, I am more capable of this. I am more capable than I thought. So if things do go wrong, I can cope with it. I can handle it, and that reduces my overall anxiety. So that's setting a firm boundary with my work, setting a firm boundary with how things are going, and understanding like, this is what's within my control. I cannot control the fact that there's a pandemic. I cannot control that these things are going on. There's a snowstorm. I cannot control that that manager is getting mad at all these things. What is in my control, though, are these things. And so that is what I'm going to deal with. I can cope with that. And that's how I manage my anxiety.
Then how you manage like to build the boundaries between work and like your personal life during this pandemic? I think because it's really
It was
hard for
hard.
us, right?
It was hard. Well, especially now that I work from home full time. Someone said, "You're not working from home, you're living in your office." I was like, "Oh, true." And like, I used to drive home, and that was the end of my day. That was my separation. Once I got home, I was done. Now I'm like, what do I do? Like, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, I'm like, what do? I just close my laptop? Like, how does that work? So what do? I schedule a time on my calendar. It still says commute time, and that's when I go for a walk with my dog. I leave the house. I go for a walk, and then when I come home, it is I'm in a different mindset, and I try, like, I push my work away. And the act of leaving the house is now like a ritual that I do to separate myself from work. They actually say there was like some psychological research that showed like leaving the room and then coming back actually helps reset that. So I once I started, like, okay, every day at 5:30, I'm going to intentionally leave the house and go on a walk with my dog. It made a huge difference.
I will try that tips.
You should, Bebria.
Okay, next questions. What the hardest situation you face at Google and how you overcome it?
The hardest situation I faced at Google, well, I'm trying to decide what I'm allowed to tell you and what I'm not allowed to tell you.
Maybe in general.
I'll be honest. It's not always easy being an Asian woman at Google when in the office, the default image of a Googler is a white man.
Mm.
And the hardest one was when I was in a micro kitchen
Mm-hmm.
and someone asked me for my badge and assumed that I worked in the micro kitchen and told me to clean it up.
Oh.
And that's not okay. And that, like, and I was able to handle it with grace, and I let him know, like, nope, like, here's my badge, I work here. And that's just something that you encounter and you try to correct in the moment, and you address.
Yeah.
But
And you need to slow down, right?
yeah, and I was like, dude, I've been here longer than you. I'm a higher level than you, and all this stuff. I could have done that, but I didn't. And I was just like, oh, no, here's my badge, but I'll still help you clean it up. And I'm still nice about it. But that was pretty challenging. And I would say from a work perspective, the hardest situation that I've faced at Google was when my project was canceled without my knowing. They canceled my project. They didn't tell me due to budget reasons. And what I did was I pivoted. I was able to say, like, okay, if we're canceling this project due to budget reasons, how can I secure that budget in another way? And so, like, it really just takes some creative problem solving. And what I did is I found another team at Google to fund it and say, like, here's why this project is valuable. Here's the business use case. Here's why. Here's how it aligns to your mission. And so, like, that's just a normal part of doing things at Google, is that a lot of things spin up and they start and they go away, and you just either have to make peace with things potentially disappearing, or you have to find another way to, like, spin it and be like, okay, we're not going to do in person, we're going to do online, so it's cheaper, or we're going to do this thing, so it's this way. And that's just, but I didn't love the fact that it was canceled without them talking to me first, or that they told me in an all hands and I had to, like, tell it to my staff. So those are just some of the things that and it's not unique to Google. It's any corporate environment that you go into.
Yeah. I think one of your point here is to be creative,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Coming from non-IT major is taking its
Mm-hmm.
toll to me,
Mm-hmm.
but how you get rid for all the pressures to meet all the deadlines while you are still learning? I think that's the what's the question mean.
I think it's a matter of really strict prioritization. I think it is, you have to balance like what can you drop from your plate with the least amount of damage to you. So, like, I think someone once said to me, you're going to drop things. Just make sure that you're dropping balls, not eggs. Because the balls you can eventually pick back up. The eggs,
Mm-hmm.
once you drop them, they're broken forever.
Right.
So, like, and recognizing that you will drop something, acknowledge that you're going to drop something, and it's okay. So strict prioritization about what are you going to drop, and understanding that it's okay to drop something. So, what classes are really, really important to you. Make sure that you never miss those deadlines for those classes. Maybe you lighten your course load and you extend your university, um, by a year. Is that going to be okay, or is that going to cause a financial burden? You have to just weigh out all your potential consequences, because your mental health is physical health. Just because they can't x-ray it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So you have to weigh out all your potential circumstances, and go, what balls can I drop versus what eggs there are, and being really strict about your prioritization.
My other questions, follow-up questions for this is, I think one of the point of prioritizations is the act of saying no. Like
Mhm.
how you build that.
Muscle.
Yeah.
How can you get comfortable with saying no?
Yes.
Really hard. It's really, really hard. And learning that no is a complete sentence. So sometimes I think about a no as a creative yes. No versus like not yet, or not right now, or not in this way, are all different ways to say no. You know, or not this thing, but maybe later. So like, what are the creative ways you can say no? And being, again, strict with your boundaries, because if you feel guilty, you think about it, guilt is just someone else's disappointment entering your body, and that's someone else's feeling entering your body. So what you do, you take that feeling and you give it back to them. You go, no, this is my boundary. No, no, Friday doesn't work for me. Monday does. But like, I hear, like, oh, that really does sound disappointing, and you didn't want it on Friday, but that doesn't work for me. You can have it on Monday though. And so, like, you empathize with them, you validate that their want is valid and it's hard for them, and you understand it, but you maintain your boundary and you return the
Back to
gift.
them.
You give it back to them.
Okay. So empathize it and then give it back to them. So they can also empathize us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, you're not being a jerk. Like, just because you did disagreement doesn't have to be conflict. Disagreement doesn't have to be contentious and mean. Just because you're saying no doesn't mean you have to be a jerk.
Mm-hmm. Agree. What abilities you must have to enter IT companies? Because
Mhm.
I think the person who asking this is really want to enter IT companies, but uh, he or she didn't feel confident with their programming skills. Like, because I think you are working at Google, one of the biggest tech companies in the industries. Like,
I do
is
zero programming.
is there any other rules that maybe the students can try without having programming skills?
I do zero programming. And IT companies need marketing people, salespeople, HR people, program managers, project managers. They need designers. They need interaction designers, UX researchers. All of those are jobs required at a technology company that aren't in tech or that aren't explicitly computer programmers. So there are a myriad of skills, technical writers that don't require programming. So you can look at, any number of job skills on the Google website that are not software engineering jobs.
Because I think people tends to generalize like, oh, you work on the IT company, you should be a software engineer.
And like, someone needs to like do other things. Someone needs to educate those software engineers. Someone needs to make sure that the software engineers' projects meet the deadlines and are successful. And someone needs to make sure that accounting happens and those software engineers get paid. Like there are so many other jobs necessary to make a full and complete company around just the software engineer. So I would say and it sounds like you're not confident in your programming skills, but you have programming skills. So what can we do to get you confident in your programming skills? There's also technical program management where you use some programming skills, but that's not your only job. So there's any number of potential job postings that would be applicable for you. But I think you have a lot of potential.
Yeah. Jadi sebenarnya banyak kerjaan. I'll explain in bahasa. Jadi banyak kerjaan di tech companies yang gak membutuhkan programming skills. Jadi kayak yang Nikki tadi bilang ada program manager. Even Nikki pun tidak melakukan programming skills in her day-to-day works gitu. Nah jadi kayaknya kalau kalian memang tertarik to jump into the IT industries, mungkin cari hal yang kalian beneran suka, and then try your best like to excel in that. Itu akan membantu banget untuk build your confidence and portfolio as well. Kayak gitu sih mungkin.
To get in the mood for this talk today, I had Indomie for lunch.
Oh, well, which flavor you have?
I don't remember. My dad sent me a big box of it at the beginning of the pandemic. It's my favorite. So that's what I had for lunch.
What do you think about Indomie?
It's my favorite. I love it. I love Indomie.
Okay, maybe when I go to Seattle, I will bring you a box of Indomie.
When you come visit, you have to bring it. You have to bring me some Indomie.
Okay. Okay, let's find another questions. How can you make sure your parents agree with your decisions if you are trying to? For example, I think in your case, when you are dropping out from the university or from the college because of that boy, what things? How you convince your parents? Like, okay, this is I want to do this. Like,
oh, I didn't convince them. There was a lot of yelling involved. There was very angry parents involved. And I think that is a very that is something that I fully recognize is a major challenge is our relationships with our family because we care so much about our families and our relationship with our family is so important to us. Our community is so important to us that it really strained my relationship with my parents for a very, very long time. But eventually what it took was me going to them and showing them that despite all of that, I was still happy. I was still successful. I was still, I wasn't hurt. I wasn't damaged. There was still nothing wrong with me. I think it came from a place of fear and worry on their part. So when I was able to show them I'm thriving, that I was able to, make their fear go away, that I was able to get them on board. But at first, oh boy, no, they were not okay with me. So I 100% see it. So I think it's about showing them that you're going to be okay, that at the end of the day, you're going to be okay, that they don't have anything to fear. So I think that's a big part of getting them on board with whatever decision it is, whether it be career, moving to a new city. My parents are in San Diego, I'm in Seattle. Whether it's your partner, who you choose to marry, all those things, I've been there. I've done all those things.
Okay. Then that question is for your parents. Like now the next question is how you convince yourself, okay, I think I need to change switch career. Is it okay to quitting what things you currently doing and stuff like that? Sometimes I think people tends to like, I don't think this is the right way,
Yeah.
but they still want to do it, but they are just afraid like to make the decisions. Like how do you convince yourself?
It's hard, and it takes a lot of risk, and it takes a lot of bravery, but I think it was it it was purely financial at that time. Is you know it was not necessarily the best choice in the short term, but I was able to make adjustments to to make the right choices after the fact, to pursue things that would continue to bring me joy, to bring me finances, to bring me things, and doing that. So it isn't binary. It isn't wrong answer, right answer. It's not the greatest answer, fix and adjust. Right? It's a cycle, because you're never done. You're never at the end of a journey. So, I'm I'm okay at this moment, but I might change. It might change a little bit later. So you're constantly adjusting and doing that. So when I decided to quit college, I was making the best decision I could with the information I had available at the time. And when that information changed, I made a different decision. And when that information changed, I made another decision. So it's constantly reevaluating and reanalyzing and doing that. So hindsight is different, but we all just make the best decisions we can with the information we have available to us at the time. And how long did it take? I mean, I'm still potentially changing paths. I'm thinking, sometimes I sit here and go, do I want to leave education to pursue something different? Not right now, not at the moment, but I reassess all the time because you constantly want to be growing and trying new things and doing things. So, it's about evolving.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. And I think last questions before we wrap up the chat, because we almost running out of time. Uh, can you share one tip for everyone if they plan to become a leader in the near futures? Because I think right now you are the leaders of your teams, right? Do you have any tip?
Yeah. If you want to grow into being a leader, it's lead where you are now. There's nothing stopping you from being a leader exactly where you are. You don't need to ask permission to lead. You don't need someone to give you a title to be a leader. So, there are ways to influence without authority. There are ways to, maybe you're on a project team and you can lead there, or you can volunteer, or, you can mentor people around you. There are ways for you to build your leadership skills now without being a manager. So I would say, start now so that by the time that the opportunities come up in front of you, you already have the skills. You're not looking to build the skills later. So start now and start leading now. Don't wait for someone else to give you that permission. And no, they don't check your search history when you apply for a job.
Oh, you're answering the questions.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Nikki, for your time. You give us really positive vibes. I saw some comments. You are so lovable. You are giving us like really positive vibes. Thank you so much for your time and the opportunities to sharing with us. It's a real pleasure to have you here. So we hope that we can have another session with you as well in the futures. So, and thank you so much for the students who already tuned in through YouTube Live as well as sending us the questions on Slido. Hope these sessions can give you new perspective from the tech leader in the industries. Okay, then thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. See you again. Bye.